While a group of construction workers are tearing down an old building, one of them, a man named Mike, suddenly notices something unusual hidden behind a wall. Inside, there are stacks of cash, millions of dollars carefully concealed. Just as Mike is about to take the money, a co-worker named Billy reminds him that the workday is already over. Not wanting anyone to suspect that he is carrying a huge amount of cash, Mike keeps the discovery to himself. Instead of taking everything, he quietly grabs a single $10 bill. Then he quickly shuts the cabinet and plans to come back later to collect the rest. However, once all the workers have gone down the stairs and gathered outside, the foreman makes an announcement. No one is allowed to go back inside the building. In fact, the structure is scheduled to be demolished very soon. Mike refuses to let the opportunity slip away. After a patrol car finishes circling the area and drives off, he tells Billy that he accidentally left his jacket inside the construction site and needs to go back for it. Before heading back in, Mike casually hands Billy the $10 bill he found earlier. Once back inside the building, Mike opens the cabinet again and pulls out 3 plastic bags. When he looks inside them, he realizes they are completely filled with cash, easily millions of dollars. The discovery fills him with excitement as he begins imagining what he could do with that kind of money. But before he can think any further, he suddenly hears part of a nearby wall collapse. The noise makes it clear that someone else is inside the building, and they are probably after the same money. Mike quickly stuffs the cash back into a bag and quietly prepares to leave. Just as he is about to reach the stairs, a group of men suddenly starts coming up from below. With no other option, he runs upstairs instead. While rushing through the floor, he accidentally bumps into a steel pipe. The loud noise immediately gives away his position. Mike quickly hides the money. Moments later, the group storms into the area. They kick open the door and search the room, but they see nothing. Mike is already hiding behind a curtain, standing completely still while holding his breath. As he waits there, he suddenly notices something else. Behind the upper part of the curtain, an old man is also hiding in silence. Luckily, at that exact moment, the men are called downstairs. They have captured someone who sneaked into the hospital building, and that person turns out to be Billy, who came looking for Mike after he never returned. One of the criminals accidentally finds the $10 bill in Billy's pocket. Immediately, they assume Billy is the one who stole the money. The gang begins brutally torturing him, forcing him to reveal where the rest of the cash is hidden. But Billy truly has no idea what they are talking about. From his hiding place, Mike watches everything unfold, completely powerless to help. Since Billy never gives them the information they want, the gang leader finally orders his men to kill him.
There.
The moment Billy is murdered, Mike loses control of himself. In the shock of the moment, he accidentally reveals his position, exposing himself to the gang hunting the money. Within seconds, the criminals capture him. Overwhelmed with guilt for Billy's death, Mike makes a decision. He is going to make them pay for it. What the criminals do not realize is that Mike is not just an ordinary construction worker. He is actually a former MMA fighter who once dominated the ring without ever being defeated. And this is Castle Falls. Several weeks earlier, Mike was living a very different life. Back then, he was known as one of the best MMA fighters around, but things had changed. Frustrated and desperate, Mike confronts his manager after being excluded from a prestigious MMA championship that year. The manager's decision is not random. Since suffering a serious shoulder injury to his right arm, Mike has barely fought. On top of that, his last 3 matches all ended without a single win. As a result, his sponsors have disappeared, and the once celebrated fighter is now struggling financially. With bills piling up, Mike insists that he deserves another chance to compete. Eventually, the manager offers him one final opportunity. Mike will face the club's representative in a private match. If Mike wins, he will take the spot in the championship. But if he loses, he must leave the club and never come back. Unfortunately, the outcome is exactly what his manager expected. Mike loses the fight. Just like that, his career with the club ends on the spot. Realizing that his age and physical condition are no longer what they used to be, Mike finally accepts that his days in professional fighting are over. Determined to start a new chapter in life, he begins looking for regular work. With no other options, Mike eventually takes a job as a construction worker. His assignment is to help demolish an old hospital building called Castle Falls, the largest one in the city. The land will soon be turned into a luxury housing complex. For Mike, the change is drastic. A man who was once a legendary fighter is now working long hours for a small paycheck. At the same time, another man in the city is dealing with his own crisis. A prison guard named Richard Erickson is struggling to hold his life together. After losing his wife, he now lives alone with his young daughter. The situation becomes even more heartbreaking because his daughter is suffering from severe cancer. Her treatment requires expensive chemotherapy, and Richard simply does not have the money. He cannot even afford to hire a nurse to take care of her. Meanwhile, inside a prison in the same city, a dangerous meeting is taking place. An inmate named Lando is forced to meet another prisoner named Damien. Both of them are powerful drug traffickers, but Lando has made a serious mistake. He stole Damien's money and hid it somewhere. Furious, Damien and his men brutally attack Lando, trying to force him to reveal where the money is hidden. A prison guard who has been bribed by Damien simply stands nearby, pretending not to see anything. During the confrontation, Lando learns something that completely shocks him. The old hospital building, Castle Falls, is about to be demolished. Realizing what this means, Lando quickly comes up with a plan. He asks Richard to transfer him to the prison's South Block, offering him a large sum of money that could be used to pay for his daughter's medical treatment. However, when Lando casually mentions Richard's daughter Emily, Richard immediately loses his temper and punches him. But the next morning, desperation takes over. Richard quietly returns to Lando and asks about the money. He simply has no other choice. This time, Lando finally reveals the truth. He once robbed Damien of $3 million, and that money is hidden inside the Castle Falls Hospital building, the same building that is about to be torn down. Lando claims he does not want the money anymore. Instead, he wants Richard to take it and use it to save his daughter's life. In return, Lando only asks for one thing. He wants Richard to move him to the South Block, where Damien and his men cannot reach him. With his daughter's life hanging in the balance, Richard finally agrees to the deal. Elsewhere, a prison guard who secretly works for Damien reports something important. He tells Damien that Richard is planning to move Lando to the South Block so that Damien and his men will no longer be able to reach him. The moment Damien hears this, he immediately connects the dots. In his mind, there is only one explanation. Lando must have asked Richard to retrieve the hidden money for him, especially since Richard is desperate for cash to pay for his daughter's treatment. To deal with the situation, Damien contacts his brother, Deacon, and asks him to take care of it. Damien may be the kingpin behind the operation, but while he sits in prison, it is Deacon who now runs the drug empire on the outside. Meanwhile, back at the construction site, Mike spends some time talking with another worker named Billy. Billy admits that he never really wanted to work a low-paying construction job, but he does not have much choice. He has a wife and 2 children to support, and this is the only way he can provide for them. As for Mike, life has become even harder. Without a place to stay, he ends up sleeping in his car, parked not far from the Castle Falls Hospital building. At the same time, Deacon and his wife, Kate, are quietly watching the hospital from a distance. They are already planning to sneak inside the building once the construction workers leave for the day. During another shift at work, Billy casually shares a dream with Mike. One day he hopes to move to Alaska with his family and start a better life. He even suggests that Mike should consider going there too. But not long after that moment, everything begins to spiral out of control. Mike soon finds himself caught in the middle of a dangerous hunt. A group of gangsters begins chasing him through the building because they realize he knows where the money is hidden. When Richard also arrives at the construction site looking for the cash, both men suddenly become targets. After hiding the money, Mike manages to take down several of Deacon's men. But the situation quickly turns against him when Kate and the rest of the gang finally corner him. Even so, Mike manages to break free and escapes through a dumpster outside the building.
Fuck, you trying to blow this place up?
Unfortunately, the moment he gets out, Richard is already there waiting, and he immediately captures Mike. Richard threatens him with a knife, demanding to know where the hidden money is. But Mike insists that he is just a construction worker and knows nothing about any cash. At one point, Richard lets his guard down for a brief second. Mike takes advantage of the moment and attacks him. The 2 men quickly fall into a fierce fight. Their struggle is suddenly interrupted when one of Deacon's men appears and points a gun at both of them. Thinking fast, Mike and Richard work together to distract the gunman. In the confusion, Mike manages to overpower him and take him down. But more of Deacon's men are already on their way. With no time left, Mike and Richard have no choice but to run. Meanwhile, Deacon orders his gang to block every entrance and exit of the building. He even tries to negotiate with Mike, offering him a simple deal. Hand over the money, and he might be allowed to live. Mike ignores the offer completely and chooses to fight back instead. At one point, Mike gets trapped inside the building by Deacon's men. With bullets flying around him, he leaps out of a window and hangs onto a thick curtain to avoid being shot from below. But the gunfire continues. Realizing he cannot stay there, Mike climbs back inside the building. The moment he enters, he finds himself face to face with Kate, who is already pointing a gun straight at him. Just then, Richard suddenly appears and attacks Kate from behind. In the struggle, he pushes her toward the window. From the outside, Deacon and his men assume the figure near the window is Mike. They immediately open fire, shooting again and again. Only moments later do they realize the truth. The person they just shot is not Mike at all. It is Kate. As her body falls from the building, Deacon watches in horror as his wife dies in front of him. Shattered by the loss, Deacon makes a promise. Mike and Richard will not leave that building alive. Elsewhere inside the building, Richard tries to treat Mike's injured arm while still pressing him about the hidden money. But Mike continues insisting that he is nothing more than a construction worker and knows nothing about any cash. Not long after, the two men run into more of Deacon's gang. This time, Mike and Richard fight side by side and manage to take them all down.
Hey, wait. Put it down! It'll kill you! I said shoot it!
Once the fight is over, Mike suddenly turns his gun on Richard. For a moment, he believes Richard might actually be one of Deacon's men in disguise. But Richard quickly clears things up and reveals the truth. He explains that everything he is doing is driven by desperation. His daughter is gravely ill, and he no longer has the money needed to pay for her treatment. Hearing this, Mike finally begins to trust him. Mike then grabs a walkie-talkie and calls Deacon, telling him to come to the upper floor personally if he wants the money. After that, Mike retrieves the cash he had hidden earlier and splits it with Richard. Richard urges Mike to leave the building immediately. But Mike still wants revenge. In his mind, Deacon and his gang deserve to die for what they did to Billy. Richard reminds him of something important. The Castle Falls building will be demolished very soon. If they simply leave, Deacon and his men will likely die in the explosion anyway. After thinking it over, Mike finally agrees. He decides to escape with Richard. Meanwhile, outside the building, government officials and construction workers are preparing for the demolition. Castle Falls will be brought down in just 15 minutes. Back inside, Deacon and his last remaining henchmen chase Mike and Richard all the way to the rooftop. A gunfight breaks out, forcing Mike to take cover, while Deacon keeps firing at him. Realizing there is no time left, Mike tells Richard to leave first while he stays behind to deal with Deacon alone. At the same time, Deacon orders his last man to go down and guard the building's exit, so Richard cannot escape with the money. Soon, Mike runs out of ammunition. With no bullets left, he challenges Deacon to settle things in a one-on-one fight. Meanwhile, Richard manages to kill the last remaining gang member and escapes by driving away in their truck. On the rooftop, Mike eventually defeats Deacon and quickly grabs the money. With the demolition only minutes away, Mike has no choice but to jump onto Richard's moving truck as they make their escape. Behind them, Deacon is still alive, desperately trying to gather the cash scattered across the rooftop. Moments later, the entire Castle Falls Hospital building is finally demolished, burying Deacon inside. As the dust settles, Mike and Richard drive away from the scene with the money. Later, Mike gives a large portion of the cash to Billy's wife so she can support herself and their children after Billy's death. And back inside the prison, another plan is already in motion. Lando asks Richard to move Damien into the same south block where he is being held. This time, Lando intends to finish what he started. So the moral of the story is if you ever find millions of dollars inside a wall, maybe take more than $10 the first time so your best friend does not get blamed while you hide behind a curtain like a nervous ninja.